Want to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons. Thank you so much for all of the continued support. Hey everybody, so it is the last day of the month, and that means it's time for my January recap video. I'm going to be, as always, talking about a little bit of a life update, talk about the channel updates, go over the channel and the reading stats, give a recap of the books that I read over the past month, and then go over all the books that were sent to me by authors and publishers over the past month. So first is the life update. So my indoor soccer team that I coached for my daughter is all wrapped up, which is awesome. We finished in second place. We were undefeated going into the last game, and then we got absolutely curb stomped. It was bad. I mean, I think they had like 6 goals at halftime, and then they like pulled off girls on the field so they could make it competitive. But yeah, anyways. So we did a lot of curb stomping on other teams, and then we got it back to us, which I was kind of happy about. I think, you know, when I think about the things that I learned in life from sports, a big part of that is like how to handle loss, because you're not always going to win. You're probably going to win about half the time on average. And so I find, especially with kids this age, my daughter's 7, it's really good for them to learn that aspect of things, along with learning skills, friendships, how to get along, communication, that kind of stuff. But so I was kind of happy that they got a little humbling and were able to try to figure out how to deal with that and have good conversations with their parents about, you know, how to process those kind of feelings. So that was cool. We'll be doing a second session of indoor soccer here in like a month. I got roped into doing that. So eventually this coaching thing on soccer might get a pause for a little bit, but it's apparently not going to happen soon. Which leads me to the next part is softball and t-ball are coming up. So I am going to try, we'll see how it works, to be the assistant coach of both my son's t-ball team, and that'll be his first time playing, and my daughter's softball team, and this will be her 3rd year playing. And so we'll see how that goes. And hopefully they don't have practices at the same time, and if they do, I'll just kind of like swap back and forth, and we'll see if we can make it work. But I'm looking forward to it. So I did a nice trip this past month with my family. We went out to Great Wolf Lodge. It's like a chain of like these big hotels with an indoor water park inside of it, which is awesome. It's so fun. I would have died for something like that when I was a kid, but luckily I'm still a kid at heart, so I get to experience that as well. I love doing adventurous kind of stuff and going down water slides and having fun with the family. It's really cool. And it's like all enclosed, so like, you know, you can't get lost because there's only one exit. And so it's really cool. And all like ingrained where you get these like wristbands where you can buy everything and open your door with a wristband. You don't even have to have your phone anywhere. Really fun. And if you have kids and you have any of those even relatively close to you, it's a big hit. Also, this past weekend, I went out to Monster Jam with my son. Watched some monster trucks, which is awesome. Super fun. My wife and I try to do this thing where we take our kids on dates, is what we call it. We want them to understand that they can have meaningful relationships with us, like individually as well. You know, it's really fun. And I think it's really nice also for, especially when I love hanging out with my son, and my wife loves hanging out with my daughter, but I also like the life kind of lessons of showing my daughter what it means to have a guy take her on a date and try to make her feel special and what that means. And so she kind of understands these things before she gets to that age and kind of have expectations about, you know, that kind of thing. And vice versa for my wife taking out my son. So, but yeah, had a blast with my son. It's always nice to get the kids separated for a little bit and let them have that one-on-one time. So yeah, a lot of fun. The 49ers, my favorite team. I'm obsessed with sports, if you haven't noticed that thus far. But football is by far my number one. And I think a rabid 49ers fan would be putting it mildly. I'm obsessive. And watching them get to the Super Bowl is so cool. I'm so hyped. I'm glad my voice is still here. I'm recording this video the day after they just went to the Super Bowl. And all day my voice was rough because I was screaming at the TV a lot of the game. So yeah, luckily it came back a little bit for the evening time and I can talk with you all. So the Discord continues to grow a lot. If you aren't over there, you should be. It's where the community hangs out in between my videos, and I'd love to have you there. We're now at 2,300 people, which is crazy. It's one of the bigger fantasy ones. Obviously, there's much bigger ones from, you know, the huge booktubers, but it's way bigger than I ever thought it would be. I'd be happy with like 500, but to have it up to that amount is cool. And it's grown 130 over the past month, which is about on average. I want you to join. I'd love to chat with you outside of just doing these videos and talking in comments. That's where I spend a lot of my time interacting with people. The Discord this past month just finished up a buddy read, like an online book club of *Children of Time* by Adrian Tchaikovsky. We'll talk about that in just a moment and when we go over the books that I read this month. But this whole buddy read thing is so fun. We read like 50 pages a day, and we have a daily discussion on the assigned chapters. There's dozens and dozens of people involved. This coming month, we obviously are going to do another one because we do one every month. But I'll announce that in my TBR video tomorrow. So my video games I played this month. I am a huge video game nerd. And I played mainly 4 games this past month. So I had a great month with new games that I have not experienced before. The first was Hard Space Shipbreaker, which blew my mind at how good it was. It sounds boring, but like you play like as a guy in space who has these derelict spaceships, and you go in with like this cutter and you cut up the ship into little pieces and try not to get yourself exploded, and you have to deal with the reactors in certain ways to make sure that nothing happens, and the oxygen, making sure it's locked in certain areas so you can go in and not get depressurized and spread things out into the different container bins. It's so fun. It's like a working sim, which does not sound fun, but it really is. Especially if you have like an audiobook on, it's the perfect game to just because you can just kind of turn your brain off and just let it go, and kind of solve these puzzles that each ship presents. And yeah, it's a blast. Also played a bit of Bit Trip Rerunner. I'm a big fan of the Bit Trip Runner series. It's like a rhythm game and kind of rhythm platformer mix. So had a lot of fun going through that. Also, maybe my game of the month was Dave the Diver. Oh my God, that's good. Another good audiobook game. Just incredible indie. Is it kind of indie? I don't know if it is, because it had a lot of money coming into it, I think from a Chinese company. But God, it is incredible. Could be my game of the year. I think it came out last year, but the game I played this year. And then finally, I finished up playing Super Mario Brothers Wonder that my kids got for Christmas. And I've been playing it at night when they don't know. Otherwise, they'd get mad at me. So let's go over the book stats for this month and the channel stats. So I read 10 books, which was about 5,000 pages, which is awesome. It's above my normal average. Normally, I average about 4,500. So yeah, I was flying through books because I loved them. My average score for the month was 3.89, which is a little bit above my normal average. I got 142,000 views this month, which was up 28,000. I'm not sure, I'd have to look, but this might be my most viewed month of all time, which is awesome. The hours watched this month was 18,000, and that's up 4,000. And my subs this month was 913, which is up 144. So the number one video on my channel this month with about 15,000 views was my 30-second review Descent into Madness video, where I only gave myself a hard timer of 30 seconds to review each book that I read over the past year. It's like a yearly recap, my fun way of doing that. The number 2 performing video with about 13,000 views was how to get your ebooks for free, which is a video I filmed 9 months ago. And look at this graph. It's so weird, but I've never had a video do this before, where it hits the algorithm way, way, way after the video came out. Normally, you'll know within 48 hours whether the algorithm's picked it up. But yeah, very strange. And it's getting more and more every day. It was getting about 500 views a day, and now it's up to 1,200. And every day it gets more and more. I just truly don't get it. Eventually it's going to fall off and not get any more. But I'm loving it where it's at, because I'm getting a ton of new subs to the channel because of it. And the number 3 best performing video with about 9,000 views was my fantasy series tier list, which is still it's a little bit in the algorithm, so that'll go up quite a bit. So let's go over the books. The first book that I read this month was The Bone Shard Daughter. This is the first book in the Drowning Empire series by Andrea Stewart. Did this in an audiobook. I predicted I'd give it a 4, and I did give it a 4. This is a nice book. It's fun. It definitely, I want to say it exceeded my expectations, but I guess I guessed at 4. But looking at this, I kind of feel I kind of thought it was a low end of the 4s, and it wasn't. It was a really solid book. There was no part of it where I was just simply wowed at. But which I would have liked. No moments that really there was a really nice moment in the book that kind of did shock me in a really pleasant way. Saw it coming a little bit telegraphed, but telegraphed 20, 30 pages before it happened, which is not bad. But yeah, really fun multi-POV book by a really talented author in Andrea Stewart. I don't know when I'm going to end up picking up the series again. Like, I kind of really need to be really enthused about a series to keep going because I have so many series. Right now, my backlog of series that I'm currently reading is so big that it takes me, like, if I end up liking a book and I'm going to continue, it'll be about 4 months until I can fit it back into the rotation again, which is a lot. And so I kind of have to be picky about the books that I continue the series on, because if I don't get picky, eventually it's going to be like 6 months, a year, and that'd be horrible. So, yeah, kind of a personal problem going through on how to balance that a little bit, but we'll see. Then I read The Heroes. This is the second standalone book in the First Law series by Joe Abercrombie. I predicted a 5. I gave it a 5. And I liked this way more than the first time I read it. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 the first time I read it. This is a reread, the only book I reread this month. And God, it's good. It honestly, I'd have to really sit down, but it might be my favorite First Law book out of the ones that I've reread. That might change. I suspect it'll change because I initially liked the Age of Madness trilogy, the one I'm about to come up on, a little bit more than the original First Law trilogy, which I think is a little bit of a controversial opinion, but it's what I feel. But God, this is so good. The first time I read it, I just had a problem in that I wasn't focusing enough. I used it as kind of a background book, and it requires more attention because it's dealing with a 3-day-long battle for most of the book, and it's really helpful to kind of look at a map, really take, picture the battlefield and what's going on. Otherwise, you can get a little bit lost. But I did that focus this time, and it really, really paid off. And wonderful book. Can kind of be read as a standalone, but I would highly encourage you to read the other books first. Then I read The Butcher's Masquerade. This is the 5th book, I believe, from Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. I predicted a 4. I gave it a 5. I predicted a 4 because I gave the previous book in the series a 3, and I was a little bit worried that it wasn't going to be able to, that it would be more towards that, like getting a little pessimistic towards the series. But it fixed all of the problems that I had with the book. I unfortunately was not able to get a video out on this one. I recorded a video, but it was blurry, and my microphone wasn't on. So it was just the camera mic, which is atrocious. So I decided just to hold on to it. I might release it. I'm not proud of the video, though. I liked what I said, but not of the presentation. I'm a little embarrassed about it. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that one, but I still have it. Just not sure. Speaking of which, though, I think I fixed my autofocus issue. Apparently, I was using my camera all wrong. This camera that I have is this really nice Panasonic, video camera, or regular camera, but it's got 4K capabilities. And I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I bought it, and it comes with a manual that's literally hundreds of pages long. It's overwhelming in what it can do. And so, I figured out how to make it work. And for me, but I'm using 2% of the camera's capabilities. And there's so many things in the menus and stuff that are just so foreign to me. I had to watch tutorials on how to figure out how to do it like this. I ended up getting a lot of advice from people that would watch the videos and say like, hey, Matt, you've kind of messed up this thing. Work on fixing this. I'd have to go research it. But I'm now at a point where I feel like it looks nice. And I was using the autofocus all wrong. I had it on this autofocus mode that's for moving around and action shots, which I'm clearly not doing here. I mean, I guess sometimes I use my hands. But I'm now, I still have to play with it a little bit, but I'm either going to be using the autofocus that just focuses on a box right here, or a manual focus. They look really similar to me, so I'm not sure which, but I think I get more blur in the background now, and it looks nice. But hopefully I don't run into that problem that I had on Dungeon Crawler Carl again. Okay, then I read Of War and Ruin. This is the third novel in the Bound and the Broken by Ryan Cahill. I stumbled there because there's novellas, and it took me a second to figure out where this was in the series. The 5th total book, but the 3rd novel. I predicted a 5 out of 5. I gave it a 5 out of 5. But if I had a 6, it would get it. It was incredible. It's the best book that I read thus far. It could very well end up being the best book that I read this year. And it's just incredible. I'm shocked at how talented this author, Ryan Cahill, is. And I want to say that he's underrated, but I kind of feel like he's getting that momentum that's really cool to see. And because I hear a lot of people talking about it. Now, it's not mainstream. I hope that it will get that way, because it's, you know, if you like things that are epic fantasy, like Wheel of Time or something that's got a lot of characters moving in a lot of different places, that old school kind of feel, it's like perfection. And I'm falling more and more in love with the series, and I'm so excited to read the next novella, and then later on this year, when the next book comes out, I am going to gobble it up instantaneously, and I just can't wait for it. Then was The Engineer. This is the second book in the Last Horizon series by Will White. Will White is the author of the Cradle series, but this is his new series. I predicted a 5. It was a 5. I gave the first one a 5, and I couldn't imagine that this one would be anything less than a 5, because it's not like the most intelligent book in the world in terms of like writing quality and all these things that are like, wow, that's, you know, so special. And it's like a little more simple on the writing. It's just action-packed and fun. And Will White did that with the Cradle series. Now, I had some problems with the Cradle series at the end of it that I didn't love the way that it ended. But we're not there right now, and the series is much shorter. I think it's going to be 5 books, maybe 6. I think 5, though. And I just have every faith that the books are just going to be a wildly entertaining, like, action movie in book form. And that's what I got. And if you haven't tried this out yet, get ready to just strap in, because it won't let you go once it slams the pedal to the metal on the first page of the first book. And then it just kind of keeps going that way. And it makes you laugh. So Will White, very funny author, not in the Terry Pratchett way, but more like funny, if that makes sense. But yeah, great stuff. So everything's been good so far, right? Except I have a couple downers. And the first of those downers is And Then There Were None. This is by Agatha Christie, and super old school book, and one of the more famous books of all time. And I predicted a 3. I gave it a 2. It just didn't work for me. I've got something wrong with me up here where older books just don't click with me like newer books do. And I want to like them. If I was like really into just trying to get views and make you like me, I'd be like, oh, I loved it. You know, how deep it was and the history of literature. But I didn't. I really, really disliked it. It had so many problems. I get it. It's really old. Things have developed since then. This book helped develop a lot of other books and the mystery genre in general. It's rough. The plotting is rough. The writing is rough. I can appreciate what it did for the mystery genre. That's about it. Okay, back on track with Son of the Black Sword. This is in the Saga of the Forgotten Warrior series by Larry Correia, the first book in it. This is the book that was in the TBR contest. And I predicted a 4, and I gave it a 5. And it's the second best book that I read this month. And in most months, this would have been the best book that I read, except I happen to have read one of the better books I've ever read. And it also gets the award for the best surprise of the month. Even though I predicted a 4 and it's only a 1-point jump, this is crazy good. And it looks so dumb. I mean, to me, just looking at the cover, looking at the blurb, it doesn't look good. And it is. I mean, within the first chapter, I was hooked. And it got better and better and better. And it's just such a good kind of more grimdarky feel to it, with this really wonderful fantasy elements that are unique and innovative with wonderful characters. I really can't think of anything bad to say about this. And I don't know what other people are missing that I'm getting, or what I'm missing that they're getting, because this is just one of the better books I've read. And nobody's talking about it, and I don't really understand why. Then was the worst book that I read this month, and it was The Coming of Conan the Cimmerian. This is part of the Conan the Cimmerian series by Robert E. Howard, the great Robert E. Howard. I predicted a 3. I gave it a 1. It's the worst surprise of the month by far, the worst book of the month by far, and one of the worst books that I've ever read. Very close to the bottom. I hated everything about it from the first page. The first page, I was like, ugh, this writing is so bad. I mean, it's just info dump. How sexy is Conan looking, and how much does all the women want to have sex with Conan, and watch him beat up the evil black guy and try to rape a woman, and look how cool Conan is. No. And the writing's not good. It's very old. It created a whole genre. It's a very important book and a very important author. But reading it today, I did not like it. And it's not because like I got a lot of flack for this in some weird like alt-right kind of environment, and like nothing against the right or the left. I love everybody. You know, politically, I work in politics, right? And I am around a political environment all the time. And I am extremely close friends with everybody on both sides of the aisle and can totally understand everybody's perspectives. But there was this weird, like, element that came out, and just because I rated this bad, everyone called me like a crazy leftist liberal that, you know, doesn't like anything manly, and it was bizarre. And clearly they don't watch my stuff because I love grimdark. I love badass warriors. I love very tough stuff and gruesome and dark. And, you know, I just didn't like Conan. But whatever. Then, getting towards the end of the month here, I read Children of Time. This is the first book in the Children of Time series by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This was the buddy read of the month. I predicted a 4. I gave it a 5. It's amazing. It's so good. I love this. It's a sci-fi book, and you check out my review for the details of it, but it's such a great mix of this hard science spaceship flying around trying to rescue humanity from a dying Earth, and this other half of the book, which is about a nanovirus that infects a life form on this planet, and that life form of an animal, I don't really want to ruin anything, and their perspective. And it's so crazy to read a point of view of a human or humanoid creature and what they're thinking and evolving quickly. And it's very freakishly inventive and a very fun read. And then the last book that I read this month was Fourth Wing. This is the first book in the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. I predicted a 2. I gave it a 2. And it's the second worst book that I read this month. I had a lot of fun with it, though, because I read it. I didn't like the book. I liked the experience a little bit because my wife was reading it, and we got to talk about it together. And we ended up doing a review with our friend. Very unhinged, off-the-rails review, which is a fun change of pace, and it's fun, getting to experience my hobby with my wife and people that I know. So that was cool. So that's it for the books that I read. Now let's talk about the books that were sent to me, and we're going to start off with Empire of the Damned. Is this, maybe the autofocus is going to be a problem now. There? I don't know. I still have to work on this. Empire of the Damned. This is by Jay Kristoff. This is the second book in the Empire of the Vampire series. And I'm super excited to read it because normally books are sent to me and I say I'm not going to read it. This is one where I reached out to the publisher and said, please send me an early copy of this book. And they very graciously did. It doesn't even have a back cover. Maybe it will eventually when the real book comes out, because I think this is like a publisher copy. But it's just a continuation of Empire of the Vampire, which is a really popular book. I loved it, and I can't wait to read this. And thank you so much to... Who? Who do I have to thank for this? Yeah, Advanced Reader's Edition, not for resale. Okay, that's why. It doesn't have a back cover. So, anyways, thank you to the publisher of Empire of the Damned. Next up is Alternate Realm, The Herald Awakened by George McCall. I'm going to read the back cover for you here. Wow, very tiny script. The story follows the adventures of Hannibal, who unknowingly gets thrust into an alternate realm after namely accepting an agreement with an unknown entity named the Spider Queen. He discovers a world that allows time travel and the alteration of world history. Throughout his journey, Hannibal meets some renowned historic figures such as Boudica, Sun Tzu, William Wallace, Saladin, and others. It is made known to Hannibal early on that there is a powerful spirit called a herald, which is a prize for those who complete certain quests. As he delves deeper into his journey, Hannibal ends up uncovering a very dangerous truth, one of which presents him with a morally burdensome dilemma. Kind of sounds like Bill and Ted, but cool. All right. That is Wayfarer's Wrath of Black Fang. That's kind of a dope cover. By Miles X. Jackson. Hidden within the southwestern region of the Hallowed Forest lives a small family of mice known as the Short Whiskers. Since they first settled in their small but secluded clearing, they have lived peaceful and uneventful lives. Perhaps it may have remained that way if not for a monstrous serpent who discovered their home and laid waste to it. When the dust is settled and the beast is parted, only 2 surviving siblings remained. Both siblings now venture out of their homes and into the forest for the first time in their lives. With one sibling seeking vengeance against the monster who took everything from them, and the other wishing to save them from certain doom, both are willing to endure the perils of the forest to achieve their goals. Little did they know that their journey would serve as the catalyst for a new era for the denizens of the hallowed forest. Looks cool. I haven't read a story about a mouse since Redwall. Then a little short guy called Throneborn, a prequel to Zodak, The Last Shielder. And this is in the Tempest Rising series by Max Moyer. It is the Age of Kings in the grand city of 𝐿'Andoria. King Tremidian rules with a fair hand. The great evil sleeps. Yet fissures have reappeared across the kingdom. Savage crow rebels terrorize villages across Rizlan. The haughty The haughty Farseer priesthood of 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝐿 has ignited a trade war, and decay and unrest plague 𝗟𝗏𝗂, the once glorious White City. The ambitious governor, 𝗟𝗏𝗻𝐿, I'm having trouble with names here, rules the White City, but his ambitions know no bounds. He eyes the crown. King Tremidian must show strength, yet mercy, wisdom, yet resolve, ever aware that history watches his every move. Throneborn brings the long-dormant age of kings to vivid life. Okay, it goes on, but that's the premise of the book. Two more. The Song of the Forest in the Tales of Aidan Dawson, Book 1 by J.T. Chugg. That's a cool last name, Chugg. Aidan hasn't ever felt like he belonged anywhere. Instead, he would lose himself in fantastical worlds within his wild imagination about mischievous fate. Kind of sounds like me. Daring adventures and heroic champions come to save the day. Anything that would allow him to escape from his mundane life and the struggles he faces. Then one day, stricken with curiosity, Aidan ventures into the clutches of an alluring forest, only to become lost in a sea of endless trees. With no hope of escape, he's rescued by a high-spirited girl who shows him that some of his wildest imaginings were, in fact, real all along. Now, within her world, he must learn his inner strengths have always been greater than his outward limitations if he ever hopes to survive and get the answers he seeks. And the final book is Chesapeake Bay Monsters by Pete Cramper. Scott, a devoted husband and father, is desperate to provide for his family, but always feels like he's fallen short. Rock, a divorced former lawyer whose drug abuse and womanizing cost him dearly, is eager to rebuild his reputation while turning a profit. And John, a money-hungry businessman, sees only dollar signs. Together, they stumble upon a discovery that could change their lives forever. Creatures in the bay that can unlock fantastic riches. But their lucrative business venture quickly turns dangerous, of course it does, as they come to believe the creatures are responsible for the deaths of several men in the area. Of course they are. Convinced they're doing the world a favor by killing the creatures and cashing in, they soon realize they're in over their heads, which of course they are. As their obsession with wealth and power takes over, they risk losing everything, including their own lives. That's it for me. Awesome. So, wow, I only have a minute left in this video before it shuts off. Good timing. All right, so thank you so much for watching this, and stay tuned tomorrow for the TBR video and the TBR contest. So thanks again, and as always, happy reading to you. Thanks again to all my patrons, with a special shout out to my Ascendant tier and Librarian tier patrons: Anna G, CJ, Doust, Darren, Gregory, Jonathan, Nathan T, Nev's Book Channel, Orthodoxia, Ron Reich, Russell, Ryan L, Sydney Baker, Tay C, Tahir, Anna, Andra, Blair, Brock, Evan, Fanixan, Harry B, Joe, Cat Mick, Michael Sugarman, Philippe, Sky, TW57, Wacky, and Zion. Thanks for sticking to the end of this video, and if you want to watch some more content from my channel, click over here and I've got some good videos for you. Thanks so much.